Welcome everyone to Marion's World, and I'm Marion, and today I'm going to give you a tour around my sewing room. Now it's not very big and it hasn't changed much since last year, but in a way it's changed quite a lot, because although the layout stays the same, the way I use it has changed since I've had my YouTube channel. And when I did my last little show around was actually, I think it must have been June or July last year, when I'd only had my channel for about a month or so. And so I've now had more than a year of sewing and filming in here, and I can't expand my room at all, but the way I've organised things is a little bit different, and I thought you'd enjoy having a tour around and seeing how things have changed. I'll get straight into it and turn you round. So here we are. So come in. I've got a lovely chandelier that got made out of all the beads and old broken jewellery and things. And so this is the extent of my sewing room. It's just under 12 feet from that side to that side, and it's just over 12 feet from where I'm standing to the outside doors. And the door I'm standing is the door into my sitting room, so it's just off my sitting room on the ground floor. I'll take you round. If I come in, I've got my lovely shelves. But the first corner, I'd close that door. It's got my coat hanging there because it's obviously work in progress. And I've got my crafty cupboard and the red drawers. The red drawers are really old. They came red, and when I got the cupboard, I sort of gave it a paint job that would match in. It looked like peeling paint. And it's where I keep my art things. So you can see I've got my acrylic paints, I have a bit of acid dyes, there's wooden beads and doorknobs and needle felting, my brushes. Mainly I call it the paint cupboard though, because that's what I have there. All different acrylic paints mainly. And my water jar. And in the drawers below, that's where I keep the remains of quilting cotton that I've got from years ago. That drawer is all elastic and bias binding and things like that. And then this drawer is what I think of as my fancy fabric. So it's tulle, organza, silk shirts, any silk that I've got in big enough quantities to need folding up into a drawer. That's that one. And the very bottom drawer has just woodworking stuff and things like that. Going on from there, what's on the wall there is just my cardboard collection. I'm always keeping cardboard if I think it's useful, and usually it is. And here I've still got my lovely needle and thread clock. And my little garden tools thing now has, well, this is quite a new purchase, this iron. I thought I'd treat myself, and it's really nice. But I keep things like, leave that off for a minute, my rotary cutter, my pinking shears, there's some quilting templates and a torch, and then I've put these on there. So I have a lovely collection of iron-on transfers. I'll just show you. These are beautiful transfers. These are from the 50s. Look, it's Little Women. It's Elizabeth Taylor. And when I open it up, there's these amazing transfers. Now I've actually been looking for someone who'll print me a transfer, because I've been thinking I could get my phonology wheel put onto something like this that I could sell for people who wanted a stitch one, but I cannot find anywhere who'll do it. Now I'm not giving up quite yet, but that's that. There's another one. This is another one, costume transfers, and it's all to do with the costumes that were in the film. And it's got the actresses here: June Allison, Peter Lawford, Elizabeth Taylor, Janet Leigh, all of that type of thing. So I keep them just as decoration really. I'm unlikely ever to actually use them. But I do have a lot. Wendy brought me all these that she found in a charity shop, and there are dozens and dozens and dozens of them. She kept some and I kept some. And the thing is, I'd quite like to give these away to anybody who'd quite like them, but I just can't work out how to without giving myself an inordinate amount of work, having to list them and photograph them, which I just don't have the time or the inclination to do. But maybe I'll organise, if somebody wants just a random selection, I could send them out. I'll see. I haven't just organised it yet, but I definitely don't want to keep all them. Got that one. It's a beauty. Anyway, they'll just stay here till I can think of a way of giving them away to people. And I'm happy to give them away, but it's how to do it. And meanwhile, these ones I'll go back up on my hook because they're just so beautiful. So next to them, I then have my shelves, and they've changed quite a bit since I filmed last year. The things on there are more the things that I use rather than just decoration. So the carpet bag has miniature crocheting for the doll's house. That carpet bag was my great-grandmother's. I think I call it a carpet bag, but I think it was just a handbag. There are bobbins. The tin with the orange flowers on is full of old glass marbles. That's only part of my collection though. And the little thing on top is full of antique dice. I'm just a collector, that's the thing. And then the ship in the bottle, Michael's grandfather made that when he was a young man. And I never had anywhere to put it. And we never had it on display, but now it's found a home on my shelf. And there's the Peyton's Beehive wool holder that I got at the wool show, and my sewing ham, and the wool winder and Swift that I use. And then the one-ply wools that I used to knit Naomi things with when she was young. Down here there's collections of lichen and bark and things that I stitch with. The embroidered moths are in the tin. Naomi's fabric with the cloth twine and the basket that I made at basketry. That's my collection of Victorian black beads. Beautiful. Then I've got a collection of old irons, and I absolutely love them. From this tiny little one here. This is heavy, this one, this is lovely. To the flat iron, which is a ton weight. To an iron for the gas. This one's really interesting. I'll show you. This one's called a boudoir iron, but it was actually for men travelling around to be able to iron their shirts. And it has a little piece where you put a piece of, underneath here, you put a little piece of, like a firelighter thing with methylated spirits that goes up, that smoulders and heats up the iron. And this one had never ever been used, and I have the box with the whole stuff in it. I love it. I love it because it's old and it's interesting, and it's what I'd call sewing and domestic paraphernalia maybe. And then there's my rice bags with silk in. So that's got silk waist and ribbon for cutting up. This one has my silk threads and silk ribbon. And the little basket behind has my cloth twine in and strips already cut up. And then lace and more lace. Next one, these haven't changed much. I keep all different things in here. That's the polyester silk, there's wire, there are the curtain hooks, and what's this one? Oh, bag things, you know, when you take old bags apart, I keep all the straps and all the pieces that go with it, so that when I make bags I've got the stuff. Bits and bobs, junk for using in places. Drawing and craft knives. I don't know, stuff. What's in there? Oh, miniature tools for the doll's house. and zips. And then my bottom row has changed a little bit in the fact that I've got some lovely tools in there. Then there's all my buttons, which are themed out into colour families in jars. And then my collection of old needle cases. I have a lovely collection of needle cases, all beautiful, from big ones down to tiny ones. That's needle cases. And then beads. Now usually I have a light on here, but the light's just stopped working and I haven't got it replaced yet. A little crocheted bunting. And all the tins, everything has something in them. That's vintage buttons still on cards. The Crawford's tin has little pieces of leather. That comb, I made that to wear as a fascinator when I went to Buckingham Palace to the garden party. So that just stays there now. I've never worn it since. This little tin always keeps the rug hooks in, and the latch hooks and marking tools for pattern making. It also has this beautiful prodder, which is made out of bone, and that's very old indeed, and that's for doing proddy mats rather than hooky mats, where you push the fabric through. It feels beautiful in your hand as well. That's really old. There's a brass rug hook. That's a beauty. And then we get on to my Zazo basket that has sort of special fabric. I have linens, Japanese fabric, some hand-dyed fabric, and I also keep my stitch tutorial piece of cloth there, along with my Sashiko thread. And then another handmade basket with spare stranded cotton, and then another old basket with my tapestry wools in. The top of the cupboard actually used to have sewing patterns on and the iron, but the iron moved over to behind the overlocker, and so on this now has all my lovely trays. So the crewel wools, the embroidery cottons, and just more embroidery threads here. And then this box, which I painted up, has sort of special fabrics and things in. So here's sort of just bits you pick up. This is swan's down, just off I think it was off what you'd call like a negligee, not a nightie exactly, you know, something you used on top, like a fancy dressing gown. And then more swan's down, leather, silk, pieces of vintage gloves and things like that. Nothing new there though, all just old stuff. So that can just stay back there. So this bit changed a lot because I used to just have a tabletop here with lots of fabric underneath it, and I bought this, that's just an IKEA Kallax, but I have it really set out for my stuff. So this has bits of fabric that's more either Inktense or hand dyed, things like that. That has fabric scraps to be used for whatever, sort of more than just sewing something, just little scraps for embroidery. That thread thing, I found a man on the internet who made custom inserts for the Kallax units, and he makes a bobbin one, and so I love having my bobbins themed out. And so they're there, along with a little tray for my sewing tools and my unpicker and flexible ruler and things that don't fit anywhere else really. And under here are boxes of the ribbons. Then this is my watercolour area where I've got my watercolour paints and some brushes and the Inktense. And then usually I keep my painting under there as well, but at the minute the phonology wheel has stayed on top here so I don't forget to do it. So expect to see a tutorial about this coming soon, because I was intending to do one near the end of the year. Then there's the overlocker, I don't use that very often, but when I need to, it's invaluable. Onto my desk. So it's just a dining table. I cut the legs shorter by about 2 inches so it was the right height for sewing on. And then I covered it with a big cutting mat. And so I have more bobbins under here, and that just has safety pins and pliers and, oh my goodness, just all lots of stuff there. And little baskets with silk thread in. That's all vintage. And this one has my clips in. My mirror's waiting to be mended. So I'm going to mend that. I'm going to make new pieces to go on that with something called a milli cut, and then paint it up again, and then hopefully it'll be good as new. So that's waiting for mending. My collection of thimbles, but I only ever use one really. I use the same one all the time. Scissors, sewing machine bits, just all the stuff you need. I just like things to look pretty, and as you'll probably notice, there's not really any plastic storage. I try and just get other stuff so that I don't have the plastic around if I can help it. It's quite hard sometimes, but I just wait until I find something. My crocheted bag here is just waiting for a lining, but I've got a vintage curtain. I've still got my vintage banana there, even though I've been offered a blooming sewing machine if I just promote it. But how can I not have my vintage banana? I'm happy with what I've got. The Franken chair, again, you know, I could be promoting some ergonomic chair, but I wouldn't sit on anything other than my Franken chair. Look at it. It's gorgeous. I love the colours. Look at that. Who wouldn't want to sit on that? As I said in the last craftroom reveal, I know I mean business when I'm sitting in the Franken chair. It is just a dining chair top and a typist's chair bottom, screwed together and given a paint job and a denim cushion. But that's my perfect work chair there. This is the end that I sit at when you see me doing my sewing. The only thing that's missing from this scene really is my hoop stand and my light, because I've moved it out of the way while I'm filming. And this is just an old bit of stuff I've put across. My latest page, my needle case Hasif, my thread jar, my tangle. It's all just there, and I sit here at the end, just here, when I'm doing my stitching. So I don't have a big space for actually setting up like a dedicated thing. I'm lucky to have a sewing room, but this is it. I do everything in here. My sewing machine never goes away, so that always takes up the table. This lovely cupboard is still stuffed as it ever was with fabric. So it's mainly sheets and linen in here, with some thrifted stuff. And the bottom shelf is all wool, so wool blankets that I've dyed, wool skirts, thrifted wool, and all that thrifted wool from Scotland in that bag just there. It all hides in there, but I know where everything is. I keep my hoops on a hook on the wall, and then we're moving round to where things have changed a bit. So over the summer I've done a lot of bits of changing around in here, because when I'm having a bit of a bother I just make more stuff. So I hope you can see that there's fabric twine and big strings of glass beads. And those glass beads, I have thousands of them. They're from a Victorian door curtain, and they're all handmade, and I think they're Murano glass. And I was going to make a door curtain of my own, but I don't have a suitable door to keep one up permanently. And so I've done that and strung it with some costume jewellery and a bit of fairy lights. They're just costume jewellery from the charity shop. And the drops are from old chandeliers. But it's looking very pretty up there. And underneath is the pelmet that I made out of my collection of vintage hankies. At last, my raven found a home, and he's hanging from the ceiling here in all his in all of this finery. I hear people say, oh, I love your purple silk blouse. This is the rest of it, because the silk blouse was actually put together from a blouse that was torn, and I cut the sleeves off to mend the blouse. So he has the rest of the purple silk on him. I think he looks lovely there, hanging from the window. He's low enough that I can see all his stitching and everything. And this is where I had all the holy stones, and I still have some holy stones, but there just got to be so many, and I've thinned them out. Kept my best ones inside and the rest have gone in the garden. And the raven was always supposed to be part of a little tableau, and so on the wall below I've actually started painting a scene, and you can see the paints are still there because I'm still on with it. But I now have a little meadow scene of a little mouse, and he's looking up, waiting to get the message from the raven who's coming down with it. And so eventually I want to make the little mouse in fabric, and also a fox is supposed to be there. I've just never got round to it. As you can see from the paints, this is still a work in progress. There's the corner where it has to go around. And my ships are all together over here. So this one hasn't moved, it's still in the same place. But the owl and the pussycat used to be in the sitting room, and they're now here. So the flying Viking ship's still there, sort of Freya's magical ship. And he just hangs there and bobbles round, along with Eric, my Viking. And I painted the window behind him to look like the waves. So it looks like crashing waves behind the ship. And I used to have all my stones, all my flint, and I've put all the flint into a little lavender basket back there. And this is my collection of glass stones and stones from the beach, and the hand axe that I made when I went flint knapping. Of course, the star of the windowsill has to be Sglyth Bradney, the Viking flying ship. I think Eric needs a companion. I think I might have to make him a wolf. A wolfy companion, I think. But he likes keeping watch across the waves. He's off a Viking. Goodness knows where he thinks he's going. And then as I come round, we've got the mirror. Wendy made me that lovely wreath with the mushrooms on, and he's got a spider and little foxgloves. Well, Wendy made that for me for Christmas. And there's me waving at you. My wool's the same, except there's different wool now really. Well, maybe not down the bottom end, but the top end, because the yellow cardigan's not there, and there's some new wool in there. Plants, and then you get round to, this used to be a white chest of drawers, but then my next door neighbour gave me this old wooden ones, and a few weeks ago I decided to paint it entirely, and so now it's been painted. In fact, what happened was I stayed up the whole night on Michael's anniversary because I didn't want to go to bed, and all I did was paint this chest of drawers. And this is my main fabric storage. So the very bottom drawer that I haven't opened actually has jersey fabric scraps. Then the one with the two poppies on, that's just, I don't know, just fabric scraps. And then the next one up is there's my linen dress, the Kawandi dress, there's my skirt fabric, more dress, curtains, my pinafore, just all the leftover fabric that's too big to be called scraps. That's usable fabric. And then this top drawer is actually fabrics destined for a specific thing. So these bits are what I've got at the sewing show. In fact, that was Sewing for Pleasure this spring. The linens, I still haven't made anything with them. And the lovely fabric from Sarah at Sewing Sanctuary. That's nettle fabric, So a rami linen for dungarees I haven't done, a tablecloth to turn into a skirt, double gauze. They're all sort of big pieces of fabric. Oh, that's the most beautiful curtain, ready to turn into a dress. That's gorgeous, that. So that's all destined for something but just hasn't been used. So you can see why I don't try and bring more fabric in when I can. It was a brown chest of drawers, you can see by the legs. And I think it looks pretty and works in my room now. And it has the hand crank singer on top. And my lovely butterfly brooch. And then my bird quilt. I had to change things around because of the bird quilt, because the bunting used to be up there and it was in the way of the bird quilt. This was the only place I could put the bird quilt. So I'm pleased with that. It looks lovely there. And next to it, those birds are the first sampler I ever did. I was about 9-year-old, and so it seemed fitting to bring that from the sitting room into here. That's just a pocket off a cardigan that got cut up, and I filled it with paper flowers. And then there's one of my paintings in a really old frame, and a bit of slow stitching, crocheted around an oak leaf. They haven't got frames, they're just hanging there, and a lady sent that one to me. And the quote's lovely, so I keep it above where I sit at the computer. We're on the final bit now. This is what used to be Michael's corner, so it's the computer. It's where I sit to do the editing and schedule my videos. It's got the little dragon hanging up, and the Clash of the Titans poster that Michael liked. And then my bunting moved onto this wall, and it looks nice there, I think. Back round to the door with my coat hanging up, and Michael's old chair that got covered in fabric. It's just a normal chair that you find anywhere that's got black fabric or black, like, pretend leather on it. I just covered it in fabric and put leather on the arms. And I do get asked about this quilt on the back. It's actually the beekeeper's quilt, now by, I think it's Tiny Owl Knits or something like that. And it was supposed to be big enough for the bed, and I never got that far, but I do like it. And they sort of, you knit these little hexagons that are one-offs, and you stuff them as you go, no sewing. So you graft the opening together as you finish off, and then it's completed when you bind your last stitch off. And then you just make lots and sew them together. And then you're back to the front door. Well, the door to the sitting room anyway. Well, I hope that was interesting to you. It was interesting for me just going round it, really. I looked at last year's and it does just look different to me altogether. And part of it was instigated by needing space to put the bird quilt on the wall, and that made me start looking around at other things. But I'd already changed the shelves and things had just changed the way they were used. But in the end, the room I've got is the room I've got. I can't do anything about the size. And I know I'm lucky to have a dedicated sewing space. When I very first started, it was always just the dining table, and I had boxes under the bed, boxes in every cupboard. There was fabric everywhere. But once you've got a dedicated space, I think you expand your stuff to fill whatever room you've got. I've definitely filled this to the utmost, I think. But I try not to bring extra stuff in. I try really hard not to just bring charity shop stuff home all the time, because I always want to, but I know that it needs to fit in here, and until I use something up, I try not to bring anything new in. It's harder to do in reality, but in my head I do try my best to do that. So I do have quite a lot of thrifting fabrics and thrifting clothes to be altered, and they're under here in the bag under the desk. I forgot to show you because there's some good projects there that I'm hoping to get onto, but not quite yet. And so I really like the way my ships hang there, and the little painting, that's just an ongoing thing at the moment, because it always was supposed to be something more than just the raven, and I just never got round to it, because I think just because, yeah, the YouTube videos ended up taking up so much time, and then I don't know, you just get into a routine of that, and while it is lovely and I enjoy all my stitching that I do, it just didn't leave time for doing bits of more experimental stuff that wasn't going to be filmed on camera. So I will try and get around to that, because I do still have a clear idea of all that in my head. Of course, I've always got the ongoing project of sewing my coat too, so that's really nice that that's got a proper start. And if there was anything I could say to anybody trying to set up their own craft room, is that just sometimes it takes a while to find the way to store things that works for you. So I know lots of people who would have lots of plastic boxes of, you know, stacked up lovely, and they've got all their threads either in bobbins, or they've got them all hanging in these new sorts of things, and there was nothing wrong with any of that, but I just like the way that I've got mine. And I used to have lots of boxes with stuff in, and every time I see some alternate sort of storage, I immediately think of how that can come into the sewing room and help me have something that looks pretty at the same time as being practical, which is why I try to store my projects in old cases. I mean, I have the hand hen jacket is in an old picnic case, like a picnic basket case. I have wicker baskets with things in, anything that can look pretty, so I don't mind it to be shown. I think that's what I like. I like everything to be out there, so I can see what I've got and I can get hold of it at the, you know, as soon as I want it. I just need to put my hand on it, but at the same time I want it to look nice, and so that's why I think in here there's not very much plastic around. Obviously there's my tripods and the lights and things like that, and the computer's all plastic, but where I can, I try and swap out into something that I feel is just pretty, and that's the way I like it. And nobody else has to do that if they don't want to. It might not be practical for them, but it's practical for me, and I'm the only one I need to please here at the moment. So yeah, I think that's all I can say really. I did a lot over the summer, because it's been quite difficult this year, and I just stayed up for 2 nights in a row and never went to bed, and just did stuff in here, which is how the chest of drawers got done and how the painting got started on the wall under the raven. And I'm pleased that that's ongoing now. I really like it, and I think I've got an idea about what else I want to make to go along with that. And so who knows, as long as I just keep enjoying myself doing my stitching and my making, then that's all I need to have. So with that, I'm just going to say thanks for watching. I hope you got a bit of inspiration from something the way I've got it, and I hope you like looking around my little piece of stitching heaven, which is what I think of it. I spend most of my days in here doing one thing and another, whether it's painting or sewing or filming or whatever it is. This is where I spend my time. And now you'll be able to place me in my room when you see what I've been filming for you. You'll know where I'm sitting at the end of my table with my camera going. So thanks a lot for watching, and I hope that you'll join me next time when I've got something else to show you from Marion's World. And in the meantime, just happy stitching and crafting or painting, or whatever brings you joy. I hope you find the time to do it, and I hope you have both the physical space in a room somewhere and the mental space to be enjoying your crafting and your creativity wherever you are. So thanks a lot for watching, thanks for all your support, and I'll see you next time. Bye everyone.